Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Jeremy, founder of QuickMail.io.
And this is Jack from emailsthatsell.com.
What are you using to send cold emails today? Is it G Suite? Very likely. Is it Outlook? Something else? In this slightly technical yet helpful episode, Jack asks his top questions around email sending. We'll talk about the best tool to send cold email. Is there an alternative to Google G Suite? And if so, is it worth switching? What impact on deliverability? Why are people doing it? Stick around and you'll get answers to all those questions and more.
Jeremy, I have some questions about what I should use to send an email. And listeners know I'm not talking about whether or not to use QuickMail. I'm talking about what QuickMail should, let's say, hook into in order to send my emails. For example, I've been using G Suite to send my email campaigns, but then a couple of weeks ago, I noticed that QuickMail offered sort of use Outlook, and it had a little button. And so I decided to give Outlook a try to see if it helped with deliverability. And that got the wheels turning to explore ways that one can send outbound email, because it's not just G Suite or Outlook, right?
That's correct. Did you get any results yet?
It's still too early to have any meaningful, yes, I'm a big fan of this or that, but the question remains, which is the best way? And before we get into any stats that you may or may not have been able to dig up from QuickMail, I just want to first talk about what we're exploring here. What is this called if I'm using SendGrid or Mailgun or G Suite? Would that be an SMTP, or what is this?
Yeah, so SMTP is just a way of sending emails. It's a protocol between two servers that describe how to send an email, basically. You do have multiple ESP, email service provider. That's what you were referring to with G Suite. G Suite is just a tool, actually. It's a suite of tools, Gmail being one of them. And obviously, you got the free Gmail, and then you got the paid Gmail. The paid Gmail is accessible via G Suite. And then you have Outlook. It's the same kind of deal. You have Outlook Online, and you can actually just access it pretty much the same way as Gmail. And they also have a free version and a paid version with Office 365.
So when we differentiate between free and paid, we're pretty much just talking about my name at gmail.com or my name at company.com. Same for Outlook and G Suite as well?
Almost. You stand correct. The free version just doesn't allow you to customize your domain name. So it's going to be at gmail.com. All users have at googlemail.com or some stuff like that. For Outlook, it's going to be at outlook.com. For the professional version of G Suite, you have to give a domain. And if you use Outlook and Office 365, you can give your own domain. And if you don't, then you have a subdomain that you can choose, .onmicrosoft.com.
So let's just assume that all of us here are using the paid accounts for whatever email service provider.
And that's smart, because usually you wouldn't use a free account in order to do cold email. Or if you do, then you're obviously doing something fishy, and you're going to be flagged very quickly.
So what else do we have besides Outlook and G Suite?
So you have a whole host of things. The thing with G Suite and Outlook is they provide other services that a lot of business are using. But you do have plenty of other ESP, so email service provider, that provide you an inbox as well as a way of sending and a way of receiving. So you have things like Fastmail. You also have Amazon Workmail. This is something that is starting to pick up steam, actually. I see more and more accounts using that in QuickMail. And you have plenty of other. But I think what you're talking about is also purely the way of sending. And you do have some specific sender. So they won't provide you an inbox. They won't provide you a way of receiving email. But they will help send you your email under the name of your domain. I can say a couple of them if you want. So we got SendGrid, Mandrill, Mailgun. Those are sort of like famous ones.
Okay, so if I'm using SendGrid, it sounds like I'll have to have my own inbox elsewhere.
Yeah, that's
right?
exactly right.
So could I use G Suite and SendGrid as an example?
Absolutely. A lot of people are actually doing that. The problem with G Suite, they are sometimes very, very picky.
What do you mean? Because I think I'm already with you there. G Suite does have some higher standards or just some limitations. Is that the right term, you think?
There's a few things here, but what I think is G Suite is more skeptical of new domain and new inboxes. So it will flag you much faster if you do something wrong at the beginning. If you go ahead, buy a new domain, start your G Suite, and then start blasting a lot of emails, as soon as you get like one complaint, boom, you're going to be flagged straight away, and then you're going to be blocked, and it is a pain in a lot of part of your body.
And so this is probably what happens if someone's ever seen you've reached a sending limit for Gmail.
Yeah, totally. There are plenty of different signs. They vary. Consider it as a black box. It happens sometimes with people who are careless with what they're doing. They got blocked very quickly, and they got blocked with different ways. Either they receive an email from nobody@gmail.com when they go over the limit, for example, but Gmail actually changed the limit live. So even though you may be allowed to send 500, they may change your limit to 50 if you get like spam complaint or stuff like that without you knowing it. And the worst thing of all actually is their support is actually atrocious. I can see the same sort of symptoms that happens, but somehow the support will just give any kind of random explanation. And because they're talking to non-techie people most of the time, then swallow it. And that's not true, most of the time.
My experience is if I'm calling about support with a question about sending limits, typically they say, give it 24 to 48 hours. Have a good day. I mean,
that sounds about right.
They leave you hanging. So this is actually one of the reasons why I'm very much curious about options out there, not only for better deliverability, but maybe for better support as well. So we've talked about a couple things. One, there are more than one option when it comes to who's going to send your mail. We mentioned a few of them. Now let's sort of talk about what you think would be a ideal setup for someone, let's say, who's just signed up with QuickMail and they say, hey, I want to, right out of the gates, do a very good job with deliverability. Do you have any advice for that person?
Yes, I do, but it will depend highly on where their business is at. Are they like new to cold email? Did they just start? Do they have a legitimate offer that they know is working? How well they targeted their audience? All those factors are super important because it will determine how well they're going to do cold email and therefore how likely they're going to be flagged or considered as spam.
Let's assume that our listener is in a few different places here. Can we talk about maybe two scenarios, one for the beginner and then one for someone who's more advanced, ready to optimize things?
Okay, sure. So which one do you want to start?
Let's start with beginner. Say I'm reading good things about outbound. I think it could work for my market. My business is sort of just starting. Where do I go when it comes to email service providers?
I'll have another question. Like, do you have a product that is working, people want already, or you're trying to discover?
This is an interesting question. I'd love to hear your advice for both camps. Let's say, Jeremy, it's brand new. I've got a hunch that there's a market that needs a particular tool. That's it, starting from 0 customers.
Okay, then in this case, that's going to be a bit gray area in that sense. But I wouldn't mind actually you testing with a free Gmail tool, for example, especially if this is to send to just 100 people kind of thing. That way, if your account gets blocked, it's not the end of the world. You can start doing something else. And at the same time, by that time, maybe you'll get enough information as to is that working or not for your specific vertical. But it's risky because it may happen very, very quickly depending on how well your email content is. Are you trying to sell or are you trying to connect with people? And I think that's really a crucial point here.
So if I'm brand new and I'm basically trying to find a product market fit, for example, and I want to validate that cold email works for my company, you might suggest starting with a free Gmail account. Maybe I create a unique Gmail account just in the beginning, send out 100 emails or so, a couple follow-ups, see if it works, and then if so, I can take the next step.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Reason for that is because the stakes are not very high. It's because the other methods will actually take a lot more time to put in place.
So speed is important at that stage.
I think so, yes.
So let's say it worked and I'm ready to take the next step. Maybe I'm not complete beginner. Mm-hmm. I've got some kind of an idea that I have success with cold email.
Yep.
What's my game plan at this point?
Okay, at this point, I will say you have to have your own domain. And now we are not talking about free Gmail anymore, free Outlook anymore. We are really talking about like having your own domain, but it should be an own domain dedicated to cold email. So try to find the name of your product, just do a .co instead or .net instead, and then go ahead and then do cold email from that front.
Once I buy my new domain, should I use G Suite at this stage, do you think?
You can. I don't think so. Here we are coming to talk about registrar. Registrar is only the person who you're going to register with to get your domain set up.
Okay.
After that, you can use G Suite, you can use Outlook, you can use Fastmail. It doesn't really matter, right? Or you could use Amazon Workmail. That's fine. It's just like you need to get a domain. But the next step as well would be to warm it up. By warming up, what I mean is, start sending a few emails to people you know already, people who won't flag you as spam. Just get the volume a bit up on your domain. Don't start straight away cold emailing, because imagine if you're sending like 10 emails and one flag you as spam, you already got like a 10% spam complaint on your account. But if you sent like already 100 emails and then you get one spam complaint, then it's only a 1%.
Now, at this stage, it sounds like it's not that big of a deal if I'm going with Outlook, G Suite, or SendGrid, just at this stage here.
Yes, it's always like you got the first step. I'm very prone on you try the easiest, simplest route, and if there is a problem, then you move on to the sort of like escalation thing. If Gmail, G Suite in your case, happen to be causing problems, then I will simply just try a different sender. You have to be slightly careful because some senders are not necessarily actually not happy that you're doing cold email. Like I know SendGrid, for example, has terms and conditions against doing cold email. But at the end of the day, if you're an entrepreneur, you just take the risk that you need to take and then figure it out. I would probably recommend you go for Amazon at the moment or Outlook at the moment, just because they are less regarding or less annoying when it comes to, or they're more indulgent, simply enough.
If I'm listening and I say, okay, Outlook or Amazon, what is it, work email?
Workmail.
Workmail. What's the email or the website that I can go to check out the Amazon Workmail?
You go to aws.com.
Okay.
And that's one of their service. And so, you got G Suite with lots of services, Gmail being one of them. Then you got Office 365 with Outlook being one of them. And then you got Amazon, AWS, and Amazon Workmail being one service of that.
Cool. And that'll give me an inbox that I can check email with as well.
Yes. In this case, you'll get both the sending as well as the receiving and the inbox for storing.
Okay, do you have any comments for our advanced listeners out there? If somebody's, let's say, experienced with cold email and they're ready to take it to the next level?
Here we're entering a sort of like always moving target zone, right? So what I'm going to tell you right now, it may not be correct in a few months' time. But what's currently happening right now is that people finding out that sending an email to a Gmail user using a Gmail service has a better chance of deliverability. And using an Outlook to an Outlook inbox has also a better chance of deliverability. We tend to see that using the same service to contact someone using the same service is having a better chance of deliverability than using different services. You could also use Yahoo. I didn't mention that because no one in their right mind will use Yahoo or Hotmail, but those are also email service provider.
Is there any way for us cold emailers to know what email service is behind a particular email?
You should look at the DNS of each domain. I'm not aware of a service that does that, but you could be, doing that, move them into groups in QuickMail and use a different inbox per your group if you're really that advanced, yes.
What about stats? Do you find any meaningful info when you take a look at what's going on with QuickMail emails?
This is a funny one. For your info, guys, Jack just asked me to put up some stats before. He has no idea what they look like, but I think it's his way.
I have my fingers crossed.
I think it's his way to ask me to share my results with you guys.
Yes.
Okay, so QuickMail has obviously a lot of users. Some of our users are really ingenious in the way they're using things, and therefore we do have the chance to have a lot of different inboxes being used. for a lot of different accounts. So I actually pulled up some stats and I checked every campaigns that sent more than 500 emails. So they're a bit more meaningful, and then check for their open rates, which indicates deliverability. Again, keep in mind they are all aggregates. If you're sending to Gmail prospect and you happen to have a Gmail inbox, then you potentially have a better chance of deliverability. So those things are not accounted for. But in aggregates, what we see is a super clear distribution with Gmail inboxes, very smooth between 100% and 0. And with the same usual thing, which means like a few, like maybe 10, 20% of people will have like super high deliverability rates, like between 60% to 100. And 10 to 20% will have between 30% and 0 or 40% and 0. And the rest is kind of in the middle, in between 60 and 40%. So it's like with a lot of things in life, the 10% gets everything, the other 10% gets nothing, and the rest gets everything, in the middle kind of thing.
Just to clarify, these are open rates from the first email of a sequence.
That's true, yes. I forgot to mention that. Yes, so it's the first email, so it's not with follow-ups and stuff.
So how do those stats stack up against other email service providers?
So let's go into other email service providers. What I found out is if you're losing Outlook, you got the same sort of shape, but they're just lower by 20%.
Lower?
Yeah.
Minus points for the Outlook camp.
Potentially. But again, you got always those 20% that do super well. So the question there is obviously linked to whoever is using that and whoever they're contacting. But it just means that there is no magic bullet, right?
Okay.
If we extrapolate that and goes to any SMTP, like you got Mailgun, SendGrid, Zoho even. A lot of people are using Zoho, Amazon, Workmail that we discussed, Mandrill, things like that. Then you drop by 40% instead of 20.
Do we have a clear winner here?
Not really, because what you have, it's the same thing. It's again the same shape. But what you have to consider here is the people who switch from Gmail may actually have higher tendency maybe to do more dodgy things, right? Because Gmail didn't let them. So it may actually be that 80% on a custom SMTP is actually a really great achievement just because they wouldn't let them send on Gmail. But more often than not, they may actually end up into the 30% zone just because they are not really doing a lot of great outreach.
It's possible that these alternative SMTPs or email service providers are more attractive to people who are not doing a great job, let's say, crafting the right message, sending to a really targeted list. So therefore, they may need to, out of necessity, switch to Mailgun or...
Yeah, so that's possible. So for example, if they're looking for volume over quality, and we have a cast about quality versus quantity. So that's one of the problems that you reach when you're going high volume. You're going to have to switch because Gmail platform or Outlook platform won't let you do those things. The other thing is, remember what I said at the beginning, like, if you're having an Outlook inbox and you're sending to an Outlook prospect, you have more chance of deliverability. By definition, if you're using, Mandrill, SendGrid, Mailgun, Amazon Workmail, you would have slightly less chance to actually reach your deliverability because of that. You're using a foreign system, and assuming a lot of people are using Gmail to receive their email, then obviously you got these potential problems. There's a lot of theories here. Difficult to pinpoint on this is exactly the problem. And we talked about stats, right? I could go ahead and do a great PDF and tell the world that you have to use G Suite and so on, but that will be only one side of the story, and that may actually not be the correct one.
So I'm hearing that no matter which email service provider you choose, it's still important to do proper cold emailing in order to keep your deliverability healthy.
Oh, for sure. There's no question about it, right?
We didn't see, for example, that by switching to Amazon Work email, that you would just bypass all of the filters and get delivered no matter what. There's no magic bullet there.
No, okay. We need to talk about a different side here. We've talked only purely about deliverability. There are some other advantages in switching that we haven't talked about.
Like what?
Like, for example, high volume. And I'm thinking like, let's say, for example, you have a message that you want to communicate to a lot of your users on a regular basis. You wouldn't necessarily use your own G Suite to actually do that. You will use a service like SendGrid, and that will be okay with your terms of conditions. You will actually contact your own users for transactional emails or other promotional emails they're happy with. So that will be fine, like notification from your services. Another big advantage of using, for example, a custom SMTP is that you'll get more granular stats regarding your deliverability than you would get normally using something else. So each email service provider providing an inbox has a way of telling that either people flag them as spam or their email bounce. And they got better way of doing it than actually using Gmail, because Gmail is very cryptic about it and doesn't actually let you know that people flag you as spam or bounce. Look at all the problem that people experience with support G Suite. This is exactly for that. They don't know what's happening. They keep it cryptic. They keep it secret.
It's their algorithm they don't want shared.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe.
And SendGrid and all those other out there are a bit more open as to, hey, you've received too many complaints. This is your current sender reputation with us. And that provide that clarity and visibility that, okay, I'm doing something probably wrong here, or I'm actually good here. And that's also very valid information that you won't get using Outlook and G Suite.
Right. And so, we haven't talked so much about usability or support or how this email platform integrates with other tools you're using, but those are probably other things to consider as well. Like you said, if you're going to be using it to send transactional stuff as well, that may be enough to change your mind on what you use to send your cold emails if you want to be able to reach out to a different customer list. Okay, is there any other thing that you would like cold emailers out there to know about the tools they have available to them?
What I would say is always keep a backup plan. If you have your business relying on cold email to generate leads, having a backup plan to switch email sending in case, Gmail is just not happy with what you're doing for XYZ reason for a temporary amount of time, it's never a good idea to be having your business hostaged by one of the email service provider. The good news is, if you're using QuickMail, and I can't talk about other tools because I'm not sure what they're doing, but if you're using QuickMail, you always have the ability to very quickly switch to an SMTP provider by just going into your inbox and just adding the fields that needs to be added, and voila, there's no big deal. But you can in 5 minutes really switch if something like that happens.
To any one of the tools we mentioned on today's cast?
Yes, I will go to try Outlook. Outlook is a little bit more involved simply because their interface is atrocious. It's just unbelievably hard to go inside and do stuff. I think Amazon is also not the most user-friendly interface when it comes to set up things. So if you're non-techie, then I will probably switch to one of the big platforms like SendGrid or Mailgun or things like that are a bit more user-friendly and fast when it comes to actually just getting the information you need.
All right. Thanks, Jeremy. So here's my 3 takeaways from today's conversation on email service providers. First, there's a lot of options for each level of cold emailing, from a free Gmail account for beginners to SMTPs for the power users out there. Second, there's no magic bullet when it comes to sending tools, but G Suite is looking strong. Remember to consider other options beyond deliverability for the best fit for your company. And finally, third, no matter what, you must follow cold email best practices to deliver properly, because no email sending tool wants spammers.
Hey, cold emailer.
Yeah, you.
If you got some value from this episode, give us a high vibe by sharing a 2-sentence review on iTunes.
Or Stitcher or TuneIn. That works too.
It's a quick way to help other growth-minded folks like us find this podcast.
So they can send awesome emails.
And make everyone's inbox a better place. Thanks.